Good evening everybody, hope you're all well and managing to endure this episode of the Twilight Zone that we're living through. This is just a fairly brief update where I am on the model making of my Governor General's Palace at Khartoum circa 1885. I watched Gavin Booth's videos and Fraser's, von Ketteringham and Gary's, and yeah, we all seem to be in pretty much the same boat. The hobby is very much a it's helping us. It's more than usual. It's a tremendous sort of strengthener for your resolve and you're just, it can be very depressing, as we all know, these circumstances that we find ourselves in, and this hobby, which usually is very therapeutic, becomes greatly so at this particular time. Anyway, enough of that. It is what it is. I've managed to put the windows on. I bought some commercially available windows. I think it's for railway accessories from a German company, and into that I incorporated some of the coloured cellophane which I'd previously purchased on Amazon. I've put blue in most windows, designating rooms that are not being occupied or which have no light, and I've rather roughly in the other windows where I wanted there to be the appearance of a light on, I've actually I put them in yellow. For example, that one there. I've left this roof loose at the moment because I'm going to tidy up in there, and I need to put a couple of doors, at least the impressions of a couple of doors. The famous staircase there where General Gordon came. I came down the stairs, I should say, and this is the model which I've from the beginning used as my tool for scaling. I mean, nothing too fancy with me, no measurements really, except the most essential ones. It's been just certainly by eye sort of assembly. It's starting to look a bit more as I hoped it would. It's going to need to be tidied up, a bit of weathering on there, but anyway, that's the overall picture. I've got it as close as possible to, if you excuse me for leaning across, but I've got it as close as possible as I can to this illustration, which is one of the very few showing, sorry, I'll have to get that further down, one of the very few showing the Governor General's Palace as it was in 1885 before the attack. So it seems very simple at the front. As I say, it's adjacent to the Nile. There doesn't appear to be too much going on there in terms of fancy work or any doors, in fact. But I've managed to get front and a rear view of the rear view was the one that really that was causing me most problems. I mean, I was really trying to. I was really trying to get something to show me what the rear view of the place would be. I've also done a couple of these will actually how can I put it? These pieces which I've created from some of the commercially available fencing, and also some of my scrap balsa wood. That will essentially abut onto there. So we're looking at something that I can store away rather than something that's rigid, which would take up an awful lot of room. So these are going to go along the side. I still need to do the back end where the dervish troops burst through. You can see that most clearly in the film Khartoum, and someone dies very theatrically with a spear in them, one of the Egyptian soldiers, and then they cut across the the compound, which seems to have been very much made out in a kind of European garden style with European trees. I've got some of those on order. You know, as I say, it's going to need to be storable. The other thing that I've got here is Ian Weekly's Buildings for the Military Modeller. I haven't actually consulted this, but I remembered reading it and remember having it. And basically it's got lots of ideas. I mean, obviously Ian Weekly is a professional, but you know, some of the things that he's produced are Samurai Castle, English Civil War Star Fort, and we've got there a Siege of Balpur, a gate from the time of the Indian Mutiny. Very nice little Hougoumont, I believe that is. Chateau Hougoumont, before it got destroyed. And on this side we have, again, the vastness that was the Alamo, part of the reason why they couldn't really defend it successfully. You've got a kind of Macbethian Scottish castle just there, and final two illustrations are of a German medieval fortress and an Italian city near Milan, done out in 15mm. As I say, the book's by Batsford, and it's probably still available on Amazon or similar. The other book, because I'm coming near the end of this project now, and I was looking around for something else to do. I've always had a fondness for the War of 1812. It seemed a little bit more compact and easy to understand, and you knew who was on whose side. And anyway, it's altogether, I think, much more accessible than the American Revolution or War of Independence. That's just my own opinion. And I picked up this book. It's from wingedhussarpublishing.com, and it's not a glossy finished book. It's always a shame when they're not glossy, in my opinion. That gives that air of quality. But this is all troop types of the War of 1812, British, Canadian, and American. And it's actually quite good. It's good value. I've got a number of books on the War of 1812 from a previous foray into the subject, but I looked around for metal figures, wanted to keep the price down a little bit. What I've decided to go for is some of the Strelets 1/72 scale plastic figures, which are you know, generally Napoleonic. They've brought some new ones out which kind of appealed to me because they're simply in either all the figures are in marching order or at attention, and I'm going to try and pick out some particular regiments, American, British and Canadian, and as I say, it just appealed to me in a slightly old school kind of old toy soldier aspect to them, where not everybody's, you know, like bayoneting someone or falling back dramatically, but they have that kind of appearance of the old Britain's toy soldiers. I'm not gonna paint them in the style of the old Britain's toy soldiers. I shall paint them as accurately as I can, but I've decided to go for you know, figures that are fairly you know, standard in pose, and return to, although I loved Newland Designs, and I did consider picking up some of their Napoleonic ranges, but I decided to keep the price down to the very minimum. Got this book though, although I've got the Osprey guides, War of 1812 and also the American Army 1812 to 1815. But this is actually a nice book. It was handed to me today by the Amazon man, and I think if he'd have had a fishing rod which he could have hung the book on, he would have given it that. But we I don't blame them. We both stretched out our arms and made the minimum of contact and spoke very little other than to say thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, I went to the shops this morning. There was queues, not because of the number of people, but simply because everyone was being allowed into the shop in groups of 10 or 20. And once you got into the shop, it was everyone had their own space. There were a little more than 1 or 2 people per aisle. And so, yeah, it's, I mean, I think the supplies are coming through fine. Prime Minister's got it now, Health Secretary, and anyway, I digress. It does weigh heavily on you. You worry about your family, and you've just got to push through. We've got to get over the hill, as I would put it. We're not at the top of the hill yet, apparently, and that's going to be tough times ahead. But I've supremely confident that we're going to do it. And this hobby and all you guys out there, I mean, if we can exchange ideas and videos, it does reassure you a little bit that there's a certain normality going on. I mean, I'm concerned about what I'm going to do with my 1812 project, and that's quite heartening given the awesome problems that we're facing. But I'm still concerned about what I'm going to do within the hobby, and that's got to be a good thing, that you can still think and be enthusiastic. And hopefully in this little video, well, for what it's worth, I hope it touches some of you with a certain degree of what was before all of this mess began, and that we can get back to what seemed to be now very very attractive times. Although I had my worries then, health worries and all sorts of things going on, it puts it into perspective. It says nothing compared with what we've got to deal with now. But what we've got to deal with now, we can still, I'm sure, get over it. And let's keep producing these videos. And I thank you all, and both those who produce the videos and even those who just watch mine and, well, everyone else's. It's as I say, it's an important bit of normality that we've got to stick with. Otherwise you start you can tumble downhill pretty fast if you let the normality go, if you let what you enjoy and what you get pleasure out. You've got to be responsible, but at the same time, as I say, you've got to apply yourself to the things that you enjoy. And YouTube, a few years ago we would never have had this, and that would have been a problem. What with all the shows cancelled, initially I was quite devastated, really. I don't, considering whatever else is going on, but I was quite disappointed. But now with all of you out there and YouTube, I suppose we've got to make the best of it. So anyway, I hope you guys are all okay, and as I say, I'm nearly winding up now with the project. I'm gonna do a bit of weathering there, and I'm hopeful of getting that finished up. As I say, I'm going to make it entirely so that it can be broken down for storage. This is as I say, going to be one of these fences either side, and then another fence across the front. It's going to be one of those terrain pieces which you can actually store quite easily, but at the same time it's a sizable piece. It's going to have It's going to have European garden in the courtyard there, as I believe was the case. And yeah, hopeful of finishing up before not too long. Anyway, thanks guys, and have a good evening, and good luck to you.